and welcome to Season of War. Hello to anybody out there in the chat or joining live. If you're watching this back, I just want to say thank you for your time and effort. And we are today we'll be talking about the Slambo GT. It was just back yesterday. Arrived home down in Texas weekend. Slambo held outside of Austin. This time down in Texas. Lots to get into and talk about. Obviously, talking about my list, thoughts afterwards, and stuff about the tournament. But I want to get a few quick. First, hey to everybody in chat, Linkers, Justin, Jim, what's up, guys? Tom, is my audio cutting out? Let me turn my mic up a little bit. I did turn it down the other day because I'm loud. Picking me up better. All right, well, hopefully, let me know if that's better, guys. If it is not, then I will turn myself up even more, but hopefully that should be better. Okay, perfect. All right, well, I'm loud. I can deal with. I can turn that down a bit. Let me know if that's down too low, but I should have my audio picking up better and not being too loud for you guys, so hopefully that's all working now. But yes, hey to everybody in the chat, thank you guys for helping me every time. No matter if I don't change the settings or something, the audio is always messed up. So figured it out now, so thank you guys for your help. But yeah, so Slambo GT held down in Texas. First big shout out I have to give is to Dan Norris, the tournament organizer. It was an amazing event. Had such a fun time down there. Awesome community down in Texas. But I want to give an especially big thank you to Dan, who helped actually set up for me to be able to record games down there. So we did record 5 games down at the tournament. Yeah, and it was all thanks to him, trying to coordinating all that, making it all possible. And then, as well as Dan, Spencer, who picked up some stands for me to use for recording. Again, also wouldn't have been possible without him to record games down there. So I did the camera down there. All I had to bring was my camera and a couple cords. I was able to record those games. So I was super excited to be able to get not only to film and get more content and kind of live action games for you guys, but showcase the Texas community. Texas has an amazing scene, a huge scene, across the major cities down there. And yeah, I was excited to get to showcase some of those games. So I think we'll have some good ones for you come in the next couple weeks. But yeah, thank you again to Dan for just helping through every stage of me planning out this trip, with the games. I had some travel issues on the way there and he was trying to help me solve some of those. So again, big shout out to Dan, amazing guy. Had such a blast at the event. So thank you, Dan, for running such an awesome event. You guys and everyone who helped you are the best. What else? Yeah, that's, I think, most of it. Also, always, I did have to mention the Texas community was great. So I had such an awesome time with all my games. Everyone I played was amazing. There's such a great group down there. We also had a bunch of foreigners, besides just me and Carl from Canada, but a bunch of outsiders to Texas down there, with a ton of the Tough Crowd team or club going down as well, of which we are peripherally sister club mates. But those guys were awesome. Honestly, hanging out with them really made the trip for me. That's what it's all about, right? Games and playing Warhammer is fun, but when you have a great group to play with and hang out with, this makes the whole weekend so much more satisfying and so much more fun. So big shout out to everyone. I had a blast down there, so thank you to everyone I got to hang out with and that said hi and all that stuff. But you guys are probably ready to hear me start talking about the games themselves. But actually before that, we're going to get into lists. Let me turn off my camera. I definitely am tired, Nick. That's just a normal part of life for me. That's what happens when you try and run your own business, have a child, play Warhammer, all those things. So sleep is what gets sacrificed. But talking about my list here now. So unsurprisingly, I was playing Idoneth Deepkin. This is, I guess, really only the second GT that I've played with, or the second event that I've played with a new book. Second GT, maybe third event. But I actually brought the exact same list that you would have seen if you've seen any of our or my Clash recap, or the game one from the Clash coverage where I was in that game. So the list is an Isharan Soul Render as my general, letting him take the command trait Teachings of the Turskoal, which is basically the flip tide build, allowing myself to reverse the tides. And his artifact is the Rune of Surging Gloomtide. This lets me summon an extra boat, and that's super good because you're summoning impassable terrain, throwing it in the way. It's basically the best kind of screen in the game because it's very hard to interact with and get around. And yeah, it's an artifact, so it just pops up, automatic, nothing to worry about, no points costs, love it. Otherwise, for heroes, I had Lo-Tan, so he's just great for his +1 to wound aura, and once per game, letting a unit use a ritual. The thing with the Soul Render also, I forgot to mention, he's bringing D3 models back. I am Naudalar in the sub-faction, so not Morphon, so it's not 3 plus D3, which I really like Morphon the best, but Naudalar is very solid as well. For battle line, I had 2 units of 10 Reavers, 2 units of 10 Thralls, and the aforementioned, well, in Naudalar, the real reason to take it is if you're taking a Leviathan, gives him a monstrous action to go rend 3 on his bites and fins, which is pretty good. This. Throw this camera up here. You still have to look at me. But Leviathan, yeah, going rend 3 on his bites and fins is a powerhouse. Deepkin, one of the struggles with them, even with the previous book moving into 3rd edition, is save stacking. I think that's still a struggle for them. We have no mortal wound output. We have some moderate rend, like a decent amount of rend 2, but sometimes rend 2 isn't enough. Especially when you're mostly 3s and 3s, though you can get, down to 2s and 2s with a lot of the stuff, with good positioning. And yeah, so Leviathan is a house. He's got reverberating carapace, making his aura go up to 15 inches, which is giving it out +1 to save, as well as +1 to hit for the Namarti, which is super helpful because the Namarti are cheap relatively, but they can both put in a ton of work if they get the opportunity. Nick, I traveled with IDK. None of it broke in transport. I brought it carry-on with me, and it was pretty delicate. I broke one model while I was down there. Not the worst, that happens just playing, but nothing broke in transport. I have like my normal plastic totes. I just had them in a duffel bag, and I carried that on with me, put it under the seat in front of me, made sure it didn't get shaken around. Next time I might do like more of a foam case or something. Some of my magnets, some of my models did pop out, like my Namarti, but nothing got broken. I was pretty careful with everything. No crazy turbulence. Plane didn't flip upside down, so all good. Otherwise in the list though, I have 2 units of 2 Italian Alapexes, so these are the sharks, both with harpoons, giving me a total of 24 harpoon shots a turn, 24-inch range, 3s, rend 1, D3 damage, decent amount of output. It's not really that reliable though, like it's solid between the 24 shots, but there's a lot of times where my 2 units of sharks or the turtle or something just don't do any damage, and then the last one does 3 or 4. Just all depends on the army you're facing. I played a lot of stuff with some decent saves, so that they don't really shine in that situation. But I also, yeah, we'll get into some tricks later. There are some tricks I try to employ a lot to get around those all-out defense and that kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah, 3 of my planes did not flip upside down. The 4th one just did not get off the ground, so that was unfortunate. Yes, that is my list. So, Battle Regiment and Hunters of the Heartland. So actually, big thing, because the turtle, the Leviathan, is a battle line, he loses the Behemoth battlefield roll, allowing him to go into Hunters of the Heartlands, which is amazing. It means he can't be stomped or roared, or can't be roared, or any monstrous action actually. That's big mainly for the roar and allowing me to use all-out defense, because my turtle is generally always on 2s and 2s anyways. So I don't need all-out attack, and letting him go on use all-out defense means he's on a 1-up save. Very solid, makes it hard to chew through him unless you have mortal wounds, which a lot of armies do. But unless you're Seraphon, you generally only have mortal wounds against the closest unit, shooting wise. That's that. And let's jump into the games. Oh, let's move my camera. That's not what I meant to do. Okay, cool. So, round 1 against Seraphon. What was that menu? Again. Okay, so here we go. Yeah, round 1, I played Seraphon. A gentleman by the name of Eli. You're gonna hear me literally say this every game, but Eli was a blast to play. Such a good guy. We had a really good game, tough close game, and perfect gentleman. And maybe just super fortunate for myself, but everyone I played down there in Texas was amazing. This is what you want, right? Win or lose, just great games, good close games, a lot of fun with your opponents. That's what this hobby is all about. Win or lose, doesn't matter. You drink a couple beers afterwards, either in celebration or commiseration. But that's what this game and hobby is all about, and that's why tournaments are so fun. But Eli was running a pretty standard, I would say, Thunder Lizards list. Hope he's not offended by that. But Slan Starmaster with Ixthy Grubs for the reroll. He had an Engine of the Gods, General, Primor Beast, Fusel of Conflagration. That's dealing out a bunch of mortal wounds. And Beastmaster, so +1 attack is one of them, and then 1 turn he can run and charge. And it is a priest as well as everything else, and he's got curse on that because getting a 4-up and doing extra mortal wounds for an army that already does a ton is amazing. Other heroes, he had a Skink Priest for the run and charge, and then 2 Star Priests just for redundancy. Those guys are the ones giving out the mortal wounds, and guys, that's good. I got them in the right order. It's either that or the priest is the other one. Who knows? They're all little stinks. What's up, Mike? Thanks everybody for joining the chat tonight or today. It's not even. I'm so excited to not be streaming at night, so hope you guys are enjoying it as well. Probably easier for a lot of people to watch. So thanks to everybody who's here. So this was a list. Also 30 stinks, 10 stinks, and a Battle Line Stegodon. That's not all, because there were 2 Bastiladons with solar engines, because they're good. That's all there is to say about that. They're 1-up save, 9 shots, D3 damage or 2 damage, which is even better than D3, and 24-inch range. Yeah, just solid monsters, giving them great battle tactic options, all that kind of thing. Emerald Life Swarm in that list as well. I would say, I know this is like a toss-up in some lists. A lot of people like the Life Swarm, a lot of people don't. I know Ridge has kind of been going back and forth, and all I'm going to say is it was very impactful in our game. Very good. Worked very well for Eli. So, one thing to consider. And here we go for the first time. I've got a little picture, not a little picture, it's a big picture, but took photos. I usually always take photos of my games or at the start and just throw them up on Twitter, keep people updated. So if you are on Twitter or not, you follow Season of War if you want, yeah, whatever, doing events, you can keep updated if you're interested in seeing how things go. So this was the photo. This is deployment. The mission. Okay, one note with this event is I would say it was a little bit like Dan and the Sons of Slambo crew definitely like to have a good time, and they and everyone had a great time there. But the event or the missions in this attack were based on all the, a bunch of the 3.0 normal missions, but they all had little twists to them. Some impacted the mission itself, some impacted scoring, some impacted bonus points or like a reroll or different things. Try to remember what they were in this one. Actually, the mission here, 2 subtle changes to Savage Danes, or one change, and that change is you could only get 2 points for one or the other of the center objectives. It just meant you didn't have to try and take both. The scoring wasn't quite as high, which using battle points as your first tiebreaker made that not as much of an issue. Savage Danes can really be an issue sometimes. So it helped with this mission, might not have with others, but you could only hold one of the center points for 2 points. You couldn't get 4 out of holding both, which is honestly how this mission should play in general. I like that change. The other ability with this mission this round, there was you could once per game move a unit when it ran an extra 3 inches. That's pretty good. Extra 3-inch movement, once per game, only when it runs. But both of us had armies here today that can take advantage of running and charging, so that was definitely notable. Here, so I would love in the future to take pictures of each round, or even like record my games also, something, I don't know. But here, just gonna have this one static image, and I'm gonna try to do some fun things. But I ended up outdropping Eli here, and gave away first, no surprise there. Set myself up potentially for the double at some point, and yeah, that's that. And what else? I then chose the ritual, so Eli couldn't shoot me unless he was within 12 inches, effectively nullifying most of Eli's turn 1. The things it didn't nullify are like the terrain blowing up from the Seraphon pyramid can blow up terrain. This is again kicking myself. Again, had a bit of a rough ride in. Not gonna blame that, but brain farted. I've played Ridge so much that I just was not thinking of the terrain piece when I deployed. Obviously, I have so many pieces around that boat right now. So between that, Helmet's Call, he dealt D3 mortal wound, 2d3 mortal wounds to a couple units, namely the ones that were impacted most. He's maybe chipping down the sharks, but putting wounds on my turtle, mortal wounds, 2d3, and on both of my heroes. I don't think they got hit by the boat, but with Comet's Call, this is a huge issue for Seraphon, or for facing Seraphon. I find Thunder Lizards probably to be my toughest matchup. I haven't played every army with Deepkin, but in my experience, they've been the toughest matchup. I'm like about 50-50 on it. When playing against Thunder Lizards, is not as reliable as I would like, but just those mortal wounds, they catch up with me. So did a bunch of mortal wounds his turn 1. Watch this. This would be fun. So those stinks on the left there on his turn 1 pretty much just ran up here onto this objective, tagging it just along that back edge, lining up. So nothing too crazy, but those stinks ran up there. And alright guys, I'm just gonna try and reposition this screen. There we go. Okay, so those little stinks ran up onto that objective. So they tagged that. He didn't even tag the objective on the right because with the change, he didn't need it. Moved the stinks up a bit in the center, like not much actually. He was kind of just chilling on the back of the objective, not overextending, playing smart. The one notable thing in this is, and this will be impactful later, but just worth noting, not over there, but this terrain piece on Nick's, on Nick. Did I say Nick earlier? I was reading Nick's name in the chat. Eli. So on Eli's side, this terrain piece was just minimally touching his deployment zone or his territory, which in Thunder Lizards meant it was deadly. And when I end a move or charge or whatever, I think that's the right, I don't remember the terrain names, but it's the one where if you roll a 1 and you take D3 mortal wounds. That's not good because that piece is huge, and it's taking up like a third of the center of the board, so that's notable later. Anyways, pretty conservative turn for Eli. Don't think he did much with his engine. No damage out. Maybe he did a heal, double tapping it. Maybe he summoned 10 Source Guard at some point. I don't remember what turn it was. Well, that was his turn 1. My turn 1 was not too crazy either. I did end up deploying, so I positioned, big thing in my deployment, so I have those 10 Reavers that are off to the left side over there. Those guys are actually deployed in the boat wholly within my territory. These 10 Thralls are positioned so that I can summon a boat right here at the end of the movement phase. And so long as I don't move those Thralls, they get to hop into that boat. Something I plan a lot when I play shooting armies. Is once I set up the boat, the next turn I can hop into it, or even wherever I can move the Thralls up. I can pop into that boat the next turn and start messing with shooting. You saw me use this against Seraphon at Grand Clash, and it's one of the best defenses. Giving that -1 to hit, stacking saves with like the turtle, and yeah, it just really helps me mitigate the shooting of armies like Seraphon. So that was big. Otherwise, I threw these Thralls over here up onto this objective. I was going to shoot a couple of those stinks just so I had one more body. And he ended up redeploying off the objective, so it meant I didn't need to shoot the stinks. So they were still alive. Otherwise, I just started doing some chip damage. Chipping down the stinks. Nothing too crazy. Like, honestly, like, turn 2 was kind of when we got started. He was obviously able to shoot me a lot more. Had to shoot the Thralls. I think I won priority, jumped into the boat. He had to start shooting the Thralls. Can't remember if he gave me priority or I took it. Anyways, a lot of his shooting was mitigated because of that. I don't know. Anyways, a lot of shooting was mitigated. I'm trying to I wish I had more photos because it would actually help me remember so much, but I don't. So you guys will have to bear with me. Yeah, pretty much that's where we're at. Round 1 was pretty conservative for both of us. I don't think I really got to shoot much with my Reavers because I didn't want to overextend them. Took a bunch of chip shots with the Sharks and Turtle, starting to work down those stinks. He ended up casting in his round 2 Emerald Life Swarm, just slowly bring them back turn by turn, even though I was chipping them down, which ended up being pretty huge for him. And I think the action really got started on round 2. So his Steggy up here, not up there. So this Battle Line Stegadon did come up here. I think he was like close to the objective. And on my turn 2, I had run and charge. So I actually, I was still pretty conservative in my castle on turn 1. Turn 2, run and charge. I actually used auto run 6 on my Leviathan, plus the once per game ability custom to this event mission pack to run an extra 3 inches. And I used my ritual, so I did that. So I was moving 19 inches with my turtle. So my turtle, who was previously around here or something, after turn 1, rocketed 19 inches up here, and both the Stegadon and Bastiladon were up there, kind of side by side. So I went in there. I also threw, at this point of the game, I threw these 2 Sharks up there as well, and the other 2 Sharks. These guys were circling over here, just staying kind of distant but close enough to threaten stuff. I at one point went into those stinks and took them out. I don't remember if that was turn 2 or turn 3, but just kind of, once I commit one unit, I kind of try and commit everything. Threat overload, so not giving my opponent the ability to just deal with one thing at a time, which is a big part of the game. So that was the thing. I did kill the Stegadon on stink sheet, or that's just the battle line Stegadon, sorry. Between shooting and the Sharks, finished him off. Allowing the Leviathan to go fully into the Bastiladon. He was all out defense. And maybe, I don't remember who he had Mystic Shield on. Could have been the Bastiladon. I don't think it was. But really, even with my Ren 3, I knew he was going to be on like a 3-up or something. Yeah, he was on a 3-up because, yeah, just the +1 save. So I don't think it really matters. Would have been any better to do Roar instead of the Ren 3 because it gives me the Ren 3 on the bites too. Yeah, so that's still a better option. But ended up making all his saves. I didn't roll any 6s with the jaws for the turtle, so no mortal wounds. So I did no damage to that Bastiladon. Took no damage in return. But that left, the turtle locked in combat here with the Bastiladon. On the terrain, I think at that point take any mortal wounds, but kind of pushing this right side with a lot of my army. My Reavers were up here shooting at those guys as well. Started again just with the way things were playing out and positioning to deal with the pieces. We had to do a lot of fighting around that big terrain piece, which just throughout the game was chipping me down, in addition to the mortal wound output from like Comet's Call and exploding terrain and all that thing, which is just again the big weakness for Deepkin. Otherwise though, I eventually got through that Bastiladon and was able to collapse, that was top of 3. We did a bunch of fighting, bottom of 3. I was fighting first again. I actually may have retreated some stuff out. But wasn't able to, really do too much. He did, I think on his turn, take out the unit of sharks that was over here. No, he didn't actually. Maybe did some damage to them, but they were alive. Because the following turn, then, I really collapsed those 2 sharks. My 10 thralls eventually worked their way up there. I don't remember if both units were alive at this point, but at least one had 5 or 6 models. So both sharks went in there, and one single shark from the other unit up in there, and Turtle and Bastiladon were still locked in combat around here. And, had my Reavers coming up as well. So really trying to, bring the fight to Eli, keep things in his zone, keep his scoring down. Obviously the movement here is a huge limitation for Seraphon, or they're not slow by any means, especially with the run and charge, but compared to other Seraphon builds, they don't have the teleport. So I'm trying to hem them in. I didn't at any point flip that center objective. I was very close at times. I think going into turn 4, obviously was really hoping for a priority. I don't think I got that one. I did not get that one. Didn't get turn 4. And actually turn 4 was the pivotal one. So after round 3, I had dealt a ton of devastating damage. If you looked at the board, I think I was pretty handedly in control. He had, I think, 1 Bastiladon, the Skink Chief, heroes in the castle, and just 5 skinks on that center objective. So 5 skinks survived, who again had been getting topped up with Emerald Lifeswarm throughout the game. So that was huge for Eli. Those skinks, that unit would have been dead otherwise. So yeah, that was big, because they ended up just bouncing out and taking this objective later in the game after I had collapsed everything down. That was round 4 actually. So he bounced them out. On round 3, it was high tide. I had committed a bunch of stuff. So I did take priority. Was it the right choice? It was the right choice in terms of killing stuff and taking the big fight. And again, if I win turn 4 priority, I have the potential to seal the game there. But it did give Eli the opportunity to burn this objective over here, which he did. And that was, always big, but Deepkin is an army that suffers too much as long as I position all right, because I can have the speed to collapse to other objectives when one gets burned. As long as only one gets burned. That's foreshadow. Yeah. Turn 4 came around. Eli won it. I had my turtle. I had 3 sharks. I had, a couple thralls in the center. I had both of my units of 20 Reavers, or 10 Reavers, I'm pretty sure. Maybe losing 1 or 2, but I was still repopulating them with the Soul Strider. I think Lotan had gone down to the mortal wounds at that point. But that is that, and that was before round 4. I lost priority. Eli took the turn. After his round 4, I had no sharks. My turtle was dead. I had very few soul reavers. That thrall unit I think was dead as well. Yeah, I think I had like maybe five reavers in one unit and one in the other, and that is just the attrition of the Seraphon mortal wounds finally taking their toll. You know, he'd be doing like 3, 4, 5 mortal wounds to my turtle every round, so by round 4 he finally finished that off, just, you know, with like a D3 mortals or something. And then was able to put all the shooting, all the fighting into all my other units, which aren't super resilient. And it just, again, the mortal wound toll caught up from Seraphon, just, again, AoE mortal wounds through the terrain and Comet's Trollsory, arcane bolts, the fusel and conflagration, all those things just adding up. Really devastating turn 4, which, again, I felt I could have sealed the deal if I got it, but this is, again, toss-up of a match, and was pretty happy. It was content, right? Put myself in the position to win. You can't always, you're not always going to get the things you need to go your way, and that's just how it goes. But super well played game by Eli. Ended up being, I think, 26-22 on victory points. So that's where it's like, could I have played more aggressive? Could I have given away turn 3? And kept my objective, burned the other one. Honestly, I don't know that that's too much better for me. I really need to be getting use out of my units before they die. Again, with the attrition of continual damage over time of Seraphon, it's like I just gotta get in and get the work done while I'm still alive. Artman's asking any tips against Seraphon with Cruel Boys. Ooh. Mortal wounds are great for you, shooting through stuff like the Bastildons. But it's tough because you are super squishy. Hide your stuff, roll your 4-ups to hide your stuff in terrain so he can't see you, is the best strategy. And then shoot him. That's all I can say. I obviously don't know Cruel Boy super well, but that would be one tip. Roll your 4-ups, hide your stuff in terrain, shoot your bolt boys at all his shooting stuff and kill it quick. Not a lot of combat in this build besides the Stegadons. So, get everything. You're covered in mud and don't have to worry too much about the shooting. That is huge help. Yeah, so that was round 1. I'm going to try not to be too long with these recaps. That was a pretty long one. But, let's see here. Round 2. So, dropped game 1. Again, wasn't the best way to start the tournament. And yeah, nowhere to go but up. So, round 2. See here. Was against... There we go. Moving my camera. Round 2 was against Jody, playing his Stormcast Eternals. And again, I say this every time. Jody was an awesome dude. A ton of fun to play against. Super nice guy. I had an absolute blast playing him. I literally just say this every time. Because it's honestly true for all my games. I had such a great time out there. The people are awesome. The community was awesome. Broken record here, but it's the truth. So Jody was running a Hallowed Knights Stormkeep build. So Gardas, 2 Knight Judicators, and then he had a Knight Zephyros and Neve Black Talon to just dance around and teleport and threaten battlefield objectives, which is great in a Stormkeep build. There's some neat little tech. Allowed him to threaten battlefield objectives, which is some chip shooting to heroes, but it just means you have to leave stuff back. Otherwise, those were his heroes. The Knight Judicator had Mirror Shield, but battle line he had 5 units of 5 Liberators. Again, in Stormkeep Hallowed Knights, they're dealing mortal wounds when they get charged if they're near an objective. They're dealing mortal wounds when they die. They're dealing mortal wounds if you stay in combat with them and don't kill them. And they're potentially fighting on death when they're killed in combat. So, not a crazy amount of damage output out of those units, but a surprising amount of chip damage. Then some other staples. 6 Launch Strikes, which again, great unit for For Stormcast, 6 long strikes, gonna do a bunch of damage, potential mortal wounds, all that fun stuff. 2 units of Aether Wings to grab objectives, dance around, and screen, and also provide +1 to hit for those raptors without spending a command point. He had 2 Redemption Brotherhood battalions and a Warlord, putting him at like 6 drops or something, which did allow me to drop him here and give him first. See here, a second. There we go. This was the photo I took from my round 2 with Jody. This was after his turn 1, so I gave him first here. You can see pretty defensive deployment as I typically do. I had thralls in my boat here. Thralls in the boat in deployment so that, I don't know, if I decide not to do the can't shoot unless within 12, he's shooting at -1 to hit. It also, lets me, be flexible, decide what I want to do. I can pop them out after, get 7 inches. Potentially lets me get closer to the center if I want to try and charge something. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Assistant Ref asks, how was terrain done at the tournament? And replace mysterious terrain. Terrain was set up by the defender, so as per GHB rules, the defender set up the terrain and then the attacker chose side. It's actually the first time that I've been at an event that actually did that. We didn't actually do it at every game. Sometimes some of the games were you and the opponent just set it up balanced and ahead. So there's that. Mysterious terrain again then was kind of just up to the players. I think I only used it 1 game out of 2 games maybe out of 5. Me and my opponent, or my opponent wanted to use it. That's fine with me, but I don't choose to. But I'm fine with it if my opponent wants to. Baylor Corvette says this is his mat and terrain. Well, Baylor, thanks for bringing terrain and lending it to the event, and was happy to play on it. So this, turn 1, I gave turn 1 away. You can see Jody moved a ton of his liberators towards the center. Obviously, round 3 onwards, going to be counting for a ton of bodies on the objectives. Got the long strikes over on the left side. I did use the Ritual of Deep Sight? I don't remember. So that he could not shoot me unless he was within 12 inches, which he was not, obviously, round 1. So let me avoid getting shot by some raptors, which is great. On the top, it's not the top. On the top, he threw the 3 birds there and used the Knight Zephyros on the bottom to nab that objective. So took all 3, Mars Battle Tactic, all that fun stuff. One big note, so we talked about how these missions were customized. This one had a rule that whoever went second in the battle round could pick one of the objectives. It was, these were very themed. They were called pinatas. So you got to hit one of the pinatas, one of the objectives, and if you would go second in the battle round at the end of the round, and you get an extra D3 victory points. Pretty wild, pretty impactful. And then, though, your opponent gets to roll 2d6 and move that objective wherever he wants up to that distance. So risk reward if your opponent throws that objective somewhere that he controls or it's super reinforced and you can't get it after. Yeah, but if you can comfortably kind of chase that objective down, not the worst thing at all. Especially if he rolls low on the 2d6. But my round 1, I marched my Namarti on this side up here to take this objective and try to push from this side. My 2 turtles on the left here pushed this objective and actually charged in. Because I couldn't get both on the objective just from movement. And I wanted to hold more. Charge into, that's not Neve, that's the Knight Azeros or whatever the Knight teleporty one is that he had. And didn't kill it in combat, which was very startling. The turtles didn't, or the sharks didn't do great. Didn't obviously have +1 to wound from Lotan, so they were on their own. I'm gonna throw this top right now. Let's go bottom left. That's even more out of the way. Otherwise, had Reavers and Thralls pushing the center objective here as well. Turtle was down here-ish. Other sharks over here, just kind of getting, again, not collapsing down, not rushing into combat, waiting to kind of chip a unit down or two, and then bring everything to bear, you know, round 2 into round 3. Yeah, so that's pretty much what I did. Started shooting at a bunch of the Liberators, trying to chip those units down. Didn't do much damage turn 1. Lost priority turn 2. And Jody was in a place, big thing actually, I put all my sharks and turtle shooting into the raptors. No surprise there. I gotta chip that unit down, take care of it as fast as possible, limit what he's able to do. I killed 3 of the launch strikes that turn. Not great, actually. Was hoping for a little more, but is what it is. But 3 raptors down. Into round 2, Jody 1 priority. Ended up rallying 1 raptor back, so he was back up to 4. Able to use his thunderbolt volley, able to shoot again. Ended up taking out those 2 sharks throughout the turn, and that's pretty much it. It didn't come into me. I wasn't too close here. I didn't actually have room to. I wanted to summon my second boat somewhere here, but just with the terrain, it was actually too tight. And the objective, there just wasn't the room to be 3 away from everything. So, yeah, wasn't really. I was pretty defensive. Wasn't able to get into me at all. And killed the sharks, but then on my turn 2, I had dealt with those birds in the top right, actually on turn 1 as well with the Reavers. And then I collapsed. Round 2, my Thralls down here, Turtle in, Sharks in, Reavers shooting from back here, other Reavers over here. Turtle in the center. I pretty much only tagged this objective, or these guys here. His position wasn't too different after his round 2 as it is now, just maybe a little more forward. So I tagged the turtle on the end here. I tagged my 2 sharks here. So that I wasn't tagging multiple units for taking the mortal wounds. And it also let my turtle kill that unit of Liberators with the red bases right here. And allowing my sharks to then pile in 3 inches and hit this unit behind. Letting me activate first, not get hit. Just reducing damage. And take out, I think I killed all but 1 of that unit as well. In shooting, I killed the unit of Liberators over here. So I had taken care of 3 units of Liberators that turn, I believe. Yeah. And yeah, that's pretty much that. Great turn for me. I think I killed 2 more launch strikes again, putting all my long range shooting into them from my remaining turtles and sharks. So he's down to 2 launch strikes. I was bottom of the round, so I hit the pinata again. I forgot to mention I got 2 points for the pinata round 1, so on D3. So I got 7 points round 1, so I was up 2. I hit the pinata again. I had hit this objective both times. Moved it like 11 inches actually the first time, then only like 4 the next time. So the objective was basically to there after my round 2. I rolled 3 for the pinata round 2, so that's 8 points that round. So I'm up 15 to 10 after round 2, just from those 5 bonus pinata points. That's literally game breaking right there alone. Not to mention that, this matchup favors me and favors Deepkin. I have the damage, I have the rend. I can deal with his long range shooting and kind of mitigate and tank it, and shoot his launch rates down as well. So pretty good. Did I see? Looks like Elijah is in the chat. Eli was my round 1 opponent that I mentioned. Yeah, you'll have to catch it back later, Eli. It was a great game, as I said, and you were a ton of fun to play against. So yeah, this from here, pretty much again, nothing too much. Round 3. Jody was able to sneak enough bodies onto this objective around my stuff because all his guys started counting as 3. He got some, the 5 Liberators on, got the dogs on, and was just able to take that objective away from me for his hold 1, hold 2, hold more. Didn't want to get into combat because high tide. The Raptors, I think, blew up a unit of Thralls that I had charged in to screen out the turtle, so the turtle wasn't getting shot with the mortal wounds. So that was fine. Come my turn 3 high tide, bad news bears for anyone is danger close, which meant I killed the unit of liberators that was over here, the dogs, the single liberator I think that was left, or maybe that was the previous turn on his turn. I think I also collapsed down with the turtle and killed these 5 liberators that had marched up over here and taken this objective back. I think at this point I might have finished off. He did rally back on his turn 3 another raptor, so he was back up to 3. I think I finished off the unit at this point, or maybe maybe it was turn 4, one or the other. But again, just not getting through my stuff fast enough, and I'm just cascading down. And in addition, so pretty much at this point it was a foregone conclusion at the end of round 3, and then I got to hit the pinata again. He popped this objective back over here because he had actually used the holy command to return a unit of 5 liberators, so he was trying to sneak them and get that objective for some extra points. Just didn't work out for him. And yeah, so pretty decisive. Round 3, I got another 3 points for hitting the pinata. I hit it all 5 rounds because I lost priority and went last every round, so I got to hit the pinata out of a potential 15 maximum VP just from the pinata, which is insane. Think about any game, if you store at 15 extra VP, how many games is that going to impact? Now, out of the maximum 15 VP, I rolled 12. So I rolled pretty hot on my D3s. It's possible. And our game ended up 43-20 in points. So if you think about those 12 VPs, I still would have been 11 ahead. It didn't dictate the outcome of this game, but this was one of the missions I think was, after playing it, a little too impactful, those special rules or the custom rules. Because think, if this was any other game, like if I played Eli here and either one of us scored 12 extra points in a close game, that literally determines the game. And I don't think you want, in my opinion, maybe as a competitive player, I value fairness and balance. Not that I wouldn't say it's unfair, but it's not necessarily a balanced rule, which can lead to unfairness. So that's one where it was a little polarizing. There are people who won or lost their games just because of that. And I don't think from like a competitive perspective, that's necessarily what I would want to see at an event. But again, it's a small thing about this mission that, little feedback never hurts. Yeah, that's that. So that was round 2 again. In conjunction with the 12 bonus VP I scored. I think I was probably the highest scoring person at the tournament that mission, scoring 43 VP on that one. So that was big. Yeah, Nick, even 1 VP though, like if last like I did, and your opponent gets given first and has to take first each round, like 5 VP, like even that giving away VP is like can impact games so much. So that was that, and great game with Jody. Such a fun guy to play. We had a blast. Was a Warhammer veteran from like fantasy, so I had played when I was back as a kid, but telling me a bunch of stories from like fantasy and models he had as well. I actually have to give huge shout out to Jody's over here. He's got Stormbo, so obviously Slambo named after the character, the event is named after the character. He had the Slambo model here as his unit champion of one of his units of liberators. I did kill Slambo or Stormbo at one point, but he had him in there for some fun as well. I think it was his buddy was playing Beast of Chaos and painted his Griffhounds to match his buddy's Beast of Chaos, saying he let the dogs out. So it was a ton of fun. This is a great guy. Such a pleasure. Everyone down there had so much fun. You're to hear me say it over and over. That's okay. So that was round 2. Round 3, going into another Seraphon match. So, I love playing Thunder Lizards. That's a lie. But I was playing Thunder Lizards round 3 again. This time against a gentleman named Keith from Dallas, I believe. I think he was part of the Dallas Defenders Club. Apologies if I got that wrong, but Keith, another great guy. Like, Texas, I will give you that you guys have an amazing community. There's nothing but love and, you know, respect and kindness from everyone I saw down there, whether like my games or otherwise. Like, just awesome community, big community too, and like the intercity rivalries they have are so cool. We have like, you know, a comparable scene in Toronto of like one of those communities, but we don't have other major cities that have like similar level clubs and scenes. So that was just so cool to see everything down there. But Keith was running a different kind of Thunder Lizards list, so very not typical. Still Thunder Lizards, still some staples, which are really good. He had this stated on with Skink Chief, that was his general with Prime War Beast, Cloak of Feathers, the best artifact in the game. It's +4 move, fly, and -1 to hit. It's literally the best artifact in the game. You can't convince me otherwise. Engine of the Gods in there, Skink Priest, Skink Star Priest, only one of each. Notable absence, no Slan Star Master. We talked about this after the game, but at least for the DEEPKIN matchup, that like made me so much more comfortable playing into Thunder Lizards and not having to worry about Comet's Call or, you know, the super strong other casting out of Seraphon. That was great. That played into this this matchup. You know, he would have been better served with a Slan Star Master against my list, but that's situational, not the case for every matchup, so you gotta pick and choose where you want your strengths. Otherwise, in the list, though, he had 30 stinks, 10 stinks, no surprise there, a Stegadon, just Battleline Stag, and only one Bastiladon, and with the extra points from the Bastiladon, and second Bastiladon typically, and Slambo, he brought in the Incarnate, so the Incarnate of Gur, Kronspine, whatever you want to call it. And it was actually really cool seeing it. He had it bound to his Star Priest, who was like in the temple or behind the temple, no real opportunity for me to kill it. And let it go wild while it was like still close to him, and he played smart with it, putting it out to one side of his army, and everything else kind of gave it space, so that it would not, you know, devastate his own army. And yeah, let's see here. So this was the setup for our round 2. You can see the Incarnate, yeah, bottom right of the board. We were playing the Vice. What was the special twist on this one? I don't remember off the top of my head. Maybe I'll remember it as I talk about the game. But yeah. Other notable things, Keith had some really cool 3D printed models. He used this thing as his terrain piece, which is like a smaller footprint than the actual Seraphon terrain piece, so using this instead only hurts himself. So I was cool with it. I didn't mind. He also had this crazy cool dinosaur as his Engine of the Gods. Big long neck dino, and then he had the Artisan Guild famous like bone snake dragon thing as his Incarnate of Gur, which is just super cool models. And yeah, you could, okay, Ryan says you could get an extra CP once per, oh, that's right. You could once per game on a 2+, get in a command point or a hero that is on an objective. It's basically like a heroic leadership on a 2-up for one hero once per game if they're on an objective. Didn't actually come up in this game for either of us. Just position-wise, never really came up. Might have in other games for other people, but didn't for us here. I assume I outdropped him, gave him first, didn't let him shoot me unless he was within 12 inches. Pretty typical stuff. My round 1, summon a boat right about here, because that objective's not there, even though I definitely could have been outside 3. But setting up for later turns again, giving me cover well in behind it, letting me save stack, jumping into it, you know, following turns for -1 to hit. It's like the best tactic against, you know, Seraphon. I use those boats so much, not only to deny space and charges and dictate where units can go, but just for like save stacking, getting in there and getting the -1 to hit. That boat again is huge, 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 huge for me. I love it. And yeah, pretty conservative turns at round 1. Though he ran the Incarnate up from here, you know, auto ran 6, put it about here, 18 inches up. Just trying to get it in my face. He won round 2, took the turn, and I had marched these thralls right up about here, like that. These other thralls were over here, and I had reavers in the boat. So that was his turn 1. He moved up. My turn 1, after positioning, I put those reavers and the shark and turtle shooting all into the Incarnate. Pretty poor performance on all my harpoons, so I didn't get a ton of damage out, you know, maybe like 10 or something. And if you know how the Incarnate works, he has to roll over that on, I think I did 12 damage. He has to roll over that on 3d6 and if he equals or above it, the damage that you do that turn, then he does not lose a level. If he cannot beat it, then he loses the level. So it was enough damage to force him to lose a level, which was unfortunate. But then Keith won priority, took that Incarnate, shoved it right up here into these units of thralls, allowing my reavers to unleash hell. Did actually like 9 damage in unleash hell because the turtle gives +1 to hit to them because the turtle is up there. The thralls also get +1 to hit within 9 inches, so they're unleashing hell on 2s and 3s, which is great. They did 9 damage. It doesn't have great. It's a 4-up save going to 5s with the round 1, so that was great. Because of my potential save stacking, he decided, which I think was the potential right choice, decided to put all his attacks into 1 unit of thralls. It would have been this one over here. Over this. What a mess. Let's get rid of all these. So the Incarnate killed this unit of thralls. Yeah, again, I could be +2 to save. I did keep him, I think, outside of 3 inches of the boat based on my positioning. So I still had my ward save. Yeah, which is pretty big. And so he doubled down on 1 unit, which I think was the right choice, because if he chips down 2 units where they have 5 models left, I'm potentially replenishing, you know, over the next couple turns, both those units to full, and they're both getting models heading back. But he did tag them both originally, which meant after he blew up that unit over here, that the unit that was right about here piled in. I only got about 5 models in, but those 5 thralls, you know, because it's more than 2, treated as more than 2 wounds or 3 wounds, I was doing 2 damage, and those 5 thralls did like another, I think, 10 damage. So the reavers did 9 in shooting, the thralls did 10 in combat, making them heroes, because that put damage total for this turn at 19, meaning it is impossible for him to roll 3d6 and tie that amount, meaning the Incarnate goes down a level to level 1, and then gave me the opportunity in my turn to dump all my shooting into it. I hopped those thralls into that boat afterwards. Because it wasn't a retreat, so I just garrisoned them into the boat that was here, still in combat, but it, you know, made them potentially. I knew even if I do all the damage and shooting to that Incarnate, that those thralls are to be stuck in combat, and at least I'll have the -1 to hit and +1 save, hopefully allowing those thralls to live. I dumped a bunch of my shooting into it, and but the Incarnate got to fight. I had killed also the Stink Priest or whichever hero he was bonded to, which I did because that meant his Skinks weren't going to get the plus or the mortal wounds on 6s, really nullifying their output. So the right call, but it meant the Skinks were back here at the time, or up here. It really meant The Incarnate was back +1 hit, so balanced out its normal profile, but I think he whiffed pretty hard with his attacks, and maybe made a couple saves, but he only killed like half the unit of thralls, and then I start bringing some back. And the Incarnate goes down at the bottom of round 2 on my turn. From there, Keith wins turn 3 priority again. Goes for broken ranks again on the thralls that are in the boat, like right here. Thralls are there. I have my turtle super defensive, back here. I have 2 sharks over here. I had pushed my sharks that were down here up around here, so they weren't in like combat threat range of anything, but they were in a decent position here to either push his objective or collapse down to the center, giving me options. And he couldn't really get into anything besides those thralls. Again, went for broken ranks. Shot, had to do a ton of his shooting at the thralls because again, -1 hit from the garrison, +2 to save. Might have even, no, he's only red 1, so I don't need to do pluses to save, and I also have the 5-up ward, so those thralls were pretty hard to take down, but he did it in the end. I think he may have charged the Bastilian into combat, or the Stegadon, or neither. They were all floating around there. Might have finished it off in shooting, and then not been able to charge anything really. So again, that boat not only helping that unit survive, tank more shooting, but then being a big buffer for him trying to get into combat with my stuff. My round 3 was pretty devastating then. Fortunately for me, unfortunately for Keith. Ooh. And besides, so that's my boat. Boat's down there. So by that time, the Stegadon was here. Stilly was here. I sent in the turtle and the 2 sharks. And I think in shooting with the Reavers helping out, killed the engine, and sharks might have finished him off. Turtle went into the Stillodon. I think might have gotten like 1/6 or something. Started to work him down. I did some mortal wounds on him so that the following turn he'd be bracketed. And the skinks I was starting to shoot down the skinks as well. Just chip them down. But just because I had killed the priest or the hero that gives them the +1 or the mortal wounds on 6s, they were no longer super effective. I charged also on my turn 3 my 2 sharks in here actually. Starting to kill some of those skinks. It also meant his engine, which was right here, or not his engine, sorry, his skink chief, kind of had to stay and deal with them on my turn 3. They got to fight first, did some damage. Maybe he did a bunch of the damage in shooting, but eventually I think killed that unit. Top of 3, or sorry, top of 4. That would have been top of 4 because he won all the priorities of this game. But I was just kind of able, with my mechanics and rules, able to kind of dictate the tempo with positioning. And then following turn, I think bottom of 4, I was able to kill the skink chief, able to kill the engine of the gods. And at that point, he had, a couple skinks and some heroes left, and I was able to clean up throughout. So big, fortunate win here. Again, I think this Seraphon matchup was a big difference in this one for me, was not having to worry about the Slan and Comet's Call, because although it's only D3 damage, that D3 damage, like, my turtle does not like eating mortal wounds. And when you can, sometimes you can't avoid the terrain, and he's potentially taking 2d3 mortal wounds. You roll like 5 on your 2d3, and then next turn you roll a 4. In 2 turns, he's potentially bracketed before he even gets into anything. But that's why I felt afterwards, I'm like, the Slan, I think, not having the Slan made me feel more comfortable in this matchup. But yeah, this one went my way. Don't remember the final score, actually. Doesn't matter. That was round 3. So round 4, Stormcast Eternals. Definitely a pattern emerging here. Seraphon, Stormcast. And let's get rid of all those squiggles. So this is Stormcast playing a gentleman named Matthew. Again, fourth time you've heard me say it, round 4. Awesome dude, awesome opponent, ton of fun to play, super nice guy, super friendly, super, like, you know what I mean? Like, all my games, I generally play if there's something an opponent like forgot to do, but could have done, and it's not like, there's no impact to allow him to do it, like use a command point, you know, if in his movement he forgets his, you know, Herald of the Old One's command point to give +1 to hit to the Bastiladon. It's like, yeah, dude, you could do that because you obviously were going to do that anyways. It just slipped your mind at the time. Like, I like to give my opponents that opportunity. Yeah, like, as long as it's a reasonable thing, you know. Again, it's something that he automatically would have done. It's not a decision point that he had to make. If he was like, if someone was like, oh, I should have done this on this unit instead, I'd be like, sorry, man, you made that decision at the time. You know, the way this played out, you know, maybe through movement or your run rolls or whatever, you might, you know, you have different information now that would impact your decision. So though, you know, obviously I have to be reasonable with it, but when it's automatic stuff that it's like, you clearly, it's obvious that you intended to do this. I like to do that. And anyways, one way of saying my opponents pretty much throughout the weekend were the same way, which just makes the whole game a way better experience. Again, awesome community. Texas, I want to come back, but the flight was really expensive, so no promises. Especially when I only got half of the flights. So it made the trip, oh, I want to talk about it. Okay. Round 4. Oop. Round 4, Stormcast Eternals. So Matthew was playing Hallowed Knights, Stormkeep as well. Yes. Oh, this is a rough one. We'll get into the mission in a bit. Lord Relictor, High Priest, Smear Shield, Translocation, super standard build. Gardas, no surprise because it's Hallowed Knights for the 5-up ward. Celestin Prime. Looking at this list in advance, I'm like, ooh, that Celestin Prime is going to be really annoying because of the deep striking, and I don't necessarily have a ton of screens. Like, I do, but I don't. So that was kind of a concern for me. 10 Vanquishers, which is the first time I've seen Vanquishers. 15 Judicators, 5 Vindictors, and Zandire's Truth Seekers, which are a pretty cool unit, actually. They were pretty neat to see. All in a 1-drop battle regiment. Not a super common build, but some of the staples like the Relictor, Gardas, Judicators. Celestin Prime isn't uncommon, but not super common either, but that's that. It was cool. So we were playing, though, I didn't really think about this until we walked up to the table because all the missions that were customized were renamed. And this one, I forget the name of the actual mission. This is the one where you can't deep strike, which really sucks for the Celestin Prime. So Matthew was saying, he's like, well, he doesn't, you know, Deepkin was a bad matchup for him. So he's like, if I'm going to play Deepkin, run into them at this event, at least it's on the mission that is already super bad for me, so that I can get like 2 bad things out of the way at once, was his mentality. But yeah, it means the Celestin Prime can't go into the heavens, which means he doesn't get any extra attacks. Tooth and Nail, thank you, Olivier. That is the name of the mission. Meant he couldn't get any extra attacks, which is just devastating. It means his maximum output in combat is 9 damage, which means he can't kill a unit of Namarti on his own, which is kind of embarrassing for the Celestin Prime. I'm sorry, Matthew, but this mission really screwed you. But I was gonna very happily take full advantage of it, because that's what you do. Matthew gave me first turn. Being a 1-drop, I just put 10 thralls here. Pretty much left my sharks here on the edge of 24 of the, what are they called? The Vanquishers. Not wanting to be too aggressive with any of my shooting, not want to overextend. I sat them, I sat my turtle, kind of like literally just then moved them up 2 inches. Sat my other sharks right here behind this boat. This photo was after my turn 1. So this is my positioning from turn 1. You can see I did summon a boat here. So that's the boat I summoned in. Just setting up to like garrison stuff inside it and all that and get it in the way. making it harder for like the Celestin Prime to get in. His bottom of 1, like he again knew he was in kind of a tough spot with the mission and matchup, so decided to play pretty aggressive and go for the double, and teleported his 15 Judicators right here, putting himself in a position to shoot at these guys with Thunderbolt Volley. Because I did do you can't shoot within unless you're within 12, and then allowing him to in the shooting phase shoot at my sharks. Very good play. You know, could have been really bad for me. The thing though is because he wanted to position all the Judicators to shoot at the Thralls round 1, so he could eliminate the unit and not have to put the whole unit into the Thralls again if one survives. After he shot the Thralls, when he went to go measure the sharks, only about like half of the unit of Judicators was in range of the sharks because of the limitation of 12 inches. So kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't position. I think he dealt maybe 7 damage or 6 or 7 damage to the unit, leaving one shark with 1 or 2 wounds left. Is what it is. I was happy about that. Means I have 2 sharks in the unit for output. And then came down to turn 2 priority. Only other real notable thing is the Celestin Prime jumped up here on this building. Again, I was more worried about the Celestin Prime. It wasn't a huge threat because of the limitations in this mission, but I just wanted to deal with it. So round 2, actually put all my shooting into the Celestin Prime that I could, which I think was all my shooting from everything. And basically I went turn 2 priority. First big note here, he went for the big play for the double, trying to eliminate my Thralls and Sharks and then be able to shoot my turtle, which would have been a great play. And if he had a 1 priority, that could have put a bad matchup, a little more in his favor, actually. That could have been really big. So didn't pan out though. Went for a big play, high risk, high reward. It's just what you do sometimes when you're in a bad situation. But lost priority, which meant I got to put my 2 units, or my unit of sharks over here, my turtle over here, my other 2 sharks here. Everything was about like positioned more like that. Yeah, and I killed a bunch of Judicators, not all of them though. One of the sharks died in return. Yeah, that's it. No tide flip. Worth noting, I haven't tide flipped at all in any of these games actually. Just shooting. I usually want to do the can't shoot within unless you're within 12 inches. Jim, I did make a fish here. A fish with weird finny legs on the bottom. But I like to do cover round 1 or low tide round 1 so I can do the ritual of can't shoot within 12. So it's easier to dictate tempo against a shooting army that's not hyper aggressive. So I don't generally flip the tides. So I haven't these first 4 games. Name of the game is after round 2, Celestin Prime was low. I had a bunch of turtles and sharks there. He came in bottom of round 2, tried to throw a bunch of stuff in combat. Judicators were trying their best. The Xandire's Truth Seekers actually did a decent amount. I think I lost the single remaining shark over here. The 2 here took some damage. My turtle was pretty much unscathed. He made a risky play with the Celestin Prime and actually threw him into my lines, bottom of 2, like dropped him right here where I had combat thralls about there. I had reavers here, and I had reavers in this boat, and then my Soul Strider here. Lotan was about here. So he tried to jump in, kill my Soul Strider. Actually, he tried to kill the reavers and Soul Strider. I don't remember which one. He went for the reavers. Or sorry, not Soul Render, not Soul Strider. I think he went for the reavers, but really, did he kill a unit? Maybe. No, I don't think he did. I think he rolled 1 to hit and 1 to wound, so he only dealt like 3 damage because he was neutered on this mission.
So in the end, then, you know, he was, from all my shooting the previous turn, he only had like 4 wounds left, and my Reavers, units of Reavers and Soul Render finished him off, just barely, but they did it. And yeah, from there, honestly, it like kind of just allowed me to, that was bottom of 2. Round 3 priority came around, and again, he kind of needed, he won priority, felt like he needed to take it, which allowed me to burn this objective. And, you know, we're fighting over here, so we're fighting kind of near and on that objective. And he had no real threat over here, so it let all my Namarti just kind of sit back, play super defensive. It was high tide, so he actually retreated a bunch of stuff out. Left the Judicators in to do the shooting to the turtle. Was starting to chip it down, but not really at risk of dying. Top of 3, rather than actually pressing the issue here as he kind of, I think, expected, because he retreated a bit, you know, through Vanquishers over here that didn't make their charge. So bottom of 3, I actually just pulled my turtle back here, threw a shark in there for Savage Spearhead. I had 1 left, and like my thralls up here for Savage Spearhead. And then I was like, kind of like, okay, he doesn't have really any damage threats to me, and he can't, yeah, just tough, again, tough matchup for Stormcast in general, especially with the Celestin Prime not being able to get extra attacks. And because it's Stormkeep, you know, it's a slower moving army. He has the teleport, but he, you know, didn't make a 9-inch charge with the Vanquishers. So tough one here for Matt in the Stormcast. But he did make a, you know, keep fighting, and he made some smart plays in terms of getting battle tactics at the end. I think he teleported a unit back here to charge round 4. 1 priority, you know, that was bottom of 4. 1 priority into 5, allowing him to teleport another unit for Savage Spearhead, you know, stuff like that. He did play, you know, just trying to squeak every point out at the end, as you do. Yeah, so that was round 4. I have played 2 Seraphon armies and 2 Stormcast armies, and as pairings were getting entered at the end of round 4 or after round 4, it was looking like I was going to play Buddy Basil from Tough Crowd, and he plays Thunder Lizards, and I'm like, great, 3 Thunder Lizards and 2 Stormcasts or Shootcasts. That's a lot of, you know, not as much variety as I would like in an event, but in the end, I didn't actually end up playing Basil. You know, spoiler alert, you can read on this menu that I played. Ooh, not giving you that yet. I played. Where are we going? There we are. I played the Soulblight Gravelords. This was a gentleman named Chris. Again, Chris was an absolute pleasure to play. You know, very understanding on both sides of like, hey, yeah, of course, you know, little things here and there. So very happy about that. Again, all my opponents were awesome. Chris was a great dude. Like, this was probably one of the closest games I've played, which is, again, what you always want, especially round 5 in a GT. Like, super close, super intense. We were both reasonable, understanding humans, very, you know, kind, respectful, friendly, had a lot of fun. We were laughing and crying together at different highs and lows throughout the game. This is what the game's all about. This is what the community's all about. So, again, thank you, Chris. All my opponents, you guys were awesome. The community was awesome. Dan, you ran a great event. You guys are all the best. But looking at this, Soulblight Gravelords, an army I comfortable playing with Deepkin. They do have the ability to save stack. They're high save armies, so they can be a little tougher to chew through, but I feel fairly comfortable against them. I have the red. I have, you know, the output. The thing with Deepkin against combat armies is you have to avoid getting overloaded, which leads me to often play conservative. And sometimes, as we've talked about, you know, I've talked about before from previous games and whatnot, give up a lead early and come back at the end. And you just have to know the moment when you need to commit and, you know, try and mitigate risk. Here in Chris's list, though, he had Prince Vordry with pinions, a Vandorian Lord, Rousing Commander, Fragments of the Keep with pinions as well as a spell, and Borislav the Gravekeeper to bring back units at half strength for a CP. Battleline, he had 2 units of 5 Blood Knights, a unit of 40 Deadwater Zombies, 2 units of 10 Direwolves, 20 Graveguard, and big thing, Hunters of the Heartland, Battle Regiment, putting him at 4 drops. I was 4 drops as well. Spoiler alert. Chris outdropped me. Made me sad. So this was the mission here. Looks like Feral Foray in terms of the map. No. So take Feral Foray positioning. Get rid of all the rules of it, where you can like burn objectives of your opponents if you're within 1. None of that. And then you take in the Dur GHB rule to burn an objective in round 3. But you make that round 3, round 4. Oh, sorry. Round 2, round 3, round 4, and round 5. We know how impactful it is in 1 round, and similar to what round 2 was like, I, especially in hindsight, after playing this, feel like that was one that maybe was a little heavy-handed in its potential impact on the game. Now you can see this photo is, I think this is turn 3? Turn 4? Turn 3, I think. Mid-game. Yeah, so here, Chris outdropped me. This is where set up the premise of why this was, I feel like this was a really unfortunate situation that I found myself in after with how the game played out. It was a little, I was disappointed, not upset or anything. And again, I had this was my most, round 5, it was a 1-point game in the end. I had a blast with Chris, blast with my opponent. So this isn't a knock on in that way in any capacity. Just like, I wish we had been playing an actual mission. Because Chris winning the roll-off, dropping first, hey, that happens, is what it is. Allowed him to give away first turn, which, it's just a strength of, means on my turn 1, I have to be very defensive, because if I move up the board, it allows him to potentially overload me on turn 2 before my high tide, which will wipe Deepkin armies. That's how, Deepkin loses, is by being, sometimes overextending, and you can't allow a combat army to overwhelm you. I did also flip the tides, so it potentially, made Chris second guess, but in hindsight, yeah, I think that was still the right decision. I don't mind doing that. It makes it Chris not want to get into combat or aggress too much until after high tide, and then I still have run and charge to get up the board if he plays super defensive. So this photo would have been round 3. So anyways, I was forced to go first, played super conservative, shot what was in range without overextending, which was Direwolves, summoned that boat in the middle of the table because boats, this allowed me, Vordry was, deployed up here at the start of the game. It meant Vordry couldn't get into combat turn 1, even with pinions on. He would, if anything, move up here. And if he did that, he's either potentially winning priority and charging in, or if he loses priority, he's a sitting duck. Chris, based on how the game went, Chris played this excellently. I don't know, I know Chris had played a Deepkin player and beat him, but I feel like this mission and matchup is largely in my favor. I don't know how he feels about the matchup, but yeah. So he did play rather defensive. Going into turn 2 priority. Before I mention that, the custom rule in this mission, in addition to the custom rules of the mission of burning objectives every round, you got to reroll 1 dice per game if you yell Slambo first. And it can be any dice, including a priority. It can be very impactful. Come to round 2 priority. well, Chris's round 1, he didn't really put anything forward at all. He ran a unit of dogs here just to tow onto that objective, but didn't, risk anything by moving it forward. Literally just sat back on his objectives, not doing anything. And yeah, so 1 priority, and he rolled a 4, I rolled a 3. And I knew after he had played his turn defensive, I knew exactly what he was going to do. He wanted to give away the turn, burn one of my objectives, and force me to come up. So what happens? He wins priority. I use my Slambo roll to re-roll the dice, once per game to try and beat his priority, because I am winning ties because I went first. I roll a 2, needed a 4 up. Obviously 50-50, didn't get it. And he takes the turn, burns my center objective. No surprise there. He's got a grave site over here and a grave site over here. So leaves the 2 objectives that he can threaten pretty easily, meaning I have to keep stuff back there. And gives me turn 2. I know that the clock is going to be ticking. He's already at an advantage for hold more. Or he's going to be at an advantage for hold more just because I have less objectives. So I move a bunch of my stuff up behind these boats. I put the 2 sharks over here to deal with those dogs at the start of 2. And that's pretty much it. Still zoning out this objective with 10 thralls and 10 reavers. Or kind of central here. I was giving him the opportunity to bring down his Graveguard, who were deep striking over here. I was giving him that opportunity, hoping, he's got to bring them down at some point, so I wanted them out on the board sooner, hoping he wouldn't make the charge and I would be able to just, deal with them. Or I was fine with him making the charge because I had my thralls here in front of my reavers and behind. But I could have positioned that better, been a little more careful, because he rolled an 11 to charge. He did bring down his Graveyard turn 2, and the 11 to charge allowed him to go like this and avoid 3 inches of the thralls. Meant not everyone got into combat, but he didn't have to tie thralls. Oh, Baylor Corvette. That was Chris. So been chatting about you the whole time. Sorry, hard for me to talk and keep up with chat as well. But yeah, you've obviously been hearing me say I had an absolute blast in our game. I think the mission, again, with the custom rules of the mission, with the way priorities went, like my game 2 where it went super hard in my favor, where it got D3 extra CP every turn, this one went super hard, not in my favor. So you win some, you lose some. Unfortunately, the one that went super in my favor I didn't need, and when I needed something to go in my favor, it didn't happen. But Chris, I do appreciate the super chat as well, so thank you. Anyways, Graveguard went in. This was bottom of 2. Round 3 priority comes around. Everything else in Chris's army, he had similarly just kind of stayed back with. My round 2, my sharks did no damage or very little damage to those dogs, meaning, yeah, they were still alive, which is really annoying because they were just a threat and they were battle line. He had to hold the line as well, as did I. What else? Graveguard got in. I killed 8 in Unleash Hell. Or maybe it was 8 total or 10. Yeah, I think I killed 8 total between Unleash Hell and combat with Reavers. And then, yeah, that was bottom of 2. Going into 3, Chris wins priority again. Again, it is high tide here, so there's like no reason for him to take the turn and run in. Oh no, this was after high tide. He mitigated my high tide, and you don't have to play it. Like, it's not the end all and be all with Deepkin. Sometimes people rely on it too much, but mitigated it. Round 3 comes, doesn't really have anything that's too at risk. So he plays, super defensive with the 40 zombies. He's got Blood Knights and the Vendorian Lords still on that objective, and Vordry, the big guy over there as well. gives me the turn so he can burn my objective, burns this bottom left objective. So I now, on my side of the board, have one objective. Already was hard pressed for like, you know, scoring because of that. And it's just was crippling. Lose another objective. I know at this point I have to like be the aggressor. So this photo is actually after turn 3. Chris had a unit of direwolves there. The Graveguard were right here. So I charged my thralls. My thralls had been down here. So this was run and charge turn. I ran them up here, charged them into the dogs, used them to create a screen here. And so I could send my turtle up, tied the dogs, get the extra. I did broken ranks, wanted to do it with the monster again. Every point matters. Did it with the monster for the extra bonus point. Also used my 2 sharks, which you can see here, using the 3-inch coherency beautifully to screen out my turtle from like the top and the side. Meaning if you wanted to try and bring the Vandorian Lord in here, or the Blood Knights, or here, or somehow Vordry dart over here. Wasn't getting into my turtle. Again, I need that turtle to deal with the Vandorian Lord, or not even the Vandorian Lord, but that's my best piece against his army because of how high his saves are. And especially Vordry, if that turtle goes down, I have probably no way to kill Vordry. Yeah. So that was, yeah, top of 3. Chris gave me the turn again. I wasn't worried about the wolves doing anything. So I went first with the thralls, who finished off the, whatchamacallit dudes, the Graveguard in combat. No surprise there, +1 attack. It was actually kind of close because I think I opted not to use all-out attack. Wasn't in the turtle buff range and didn't have Lotan's buff because I wanted Lotan to be marching up the board. Yeah, so this was top of 2, putting myself in a position to mitigate any potential impact into me. Here on, so top of, this was after round 3. In Chris's turn 3, he brought Vordry finally in from hiding cowardly in the back, and just here, doing broken ranks, killing those thralls with the monster, getting the extra point. Kept the zombies here on this objective. I had killed a bunch in shooting, just starting to chip them down. The Vandorian Lord is back there. He's been hiding all game behind this building, which I would have loved to have been chipping him down throughout the game instead of something like the zombies. Zombies I'm not too scared of, but he was literally blocking line of sight all game, so didn't get that opportunity. Which again, very heads up play. I told Chris after this game is like, he, played a super smart game. The early priorities and the roll off to drop first went his way, and he played smartly into that and gave himself the opportunity to like seal the game without having to engage at all. And I felt like matchup wise, my army is at the advantage in this matchup. Yeah, so yeah, that's pretty much where we're at. So Vordry came in. Again, over here, the Blood Knights and the Vandorian Lord just continued to hide at the back cowardly, just screening out the Vandorian Lord. He was just waiting for an opportunity. I wasn't giving him one, but he, was kind of a smart dance, very tactical back and forth of not trying to give our opponent, positive trades. But again, the getting to burn 2 of my objectives gave him the advantage there, where the pressure was on me to now move up the board. So that was round 3. Sorry, that was round 3. We roll priority. I win round 4 priority. So I won round 4. It's like, okay, do I give it away to keep an objective? I could have redeployed my sharks or my turtle to keep him safe for Vordry. Not let him get Vordry into the turtle potentially. Even still, I'm +3 save. Vordry is strong, but he's not like potentially swingy. anyway, on the charge, he's nuts. So really, obviously, at that point, I'm like, okay, this is my opportunity to kill Vordry. He's sitting, you know, in the center of the board, and right there, ready for me to hit. And this is the time to do it. Take some of his objectives, and that's what I tried to do. That's what I did. So that went my way. I threw the turtle in right here. I threw... The zombies actually kind of screened me out, unfortunately. So I put the 2 sharks here. This, I think, was potentially my misplay of the match. If there was one error I made, I think it was at this point. Again, I'm not too worried about the zombies. I shot a bunch, I don't think I shot them. I put all my shooting into Vordry. He used Finest Hour. I didn't go for Bring It Down just in case I didn't do it. I did Ferocious Advance with my throwing my 2 heroes and my thralls auto ran 6 up, trying to move them up the board. And me taking priority here on round 4 meant he burned my last objective. But again, kind of in the position where this is where I'm at the point where I need to be aggressing. I need to kill Vordry. I'm pressuring his objectives already, so I can take 2 objectives on his side and hold more anyways. So losing that objective, while not great, wasn't the worst either. Yeah, so the turtle went into Vordry. The 2 sharks went into Vordry on this side, and then I had 2 sharks over here into the zombies. I should have put these 2 sharks over here into Gorslav. That was my mistake. Hands down. That was my mistake of the match. Like, I wasn't worried about... I didn't realize Gorslav brought models within 9 inches of him. I thought they still had to come within a gravesite. He just spent a CP and made it automatic. So that was my... Again, so important to know your opponent's armies and rules and all that stuff. Not just didn't realize. And that costs... I again, should have gone into Gorslav, sealed the deal, not let him bring in anything back in the game, regardless of whether he brings it back within 9 of him or not. Anyways, didn't go into Gorslav. I finished off that unit of zombies. My turtle brought Vordry down to, like, I think 2 or 3, maybe 4 wounds left on the first activation. Vordry went into my sharks. I used all our defense, +1 to save from the turtle, so +2 to save. Vordry did 0 damage. Chris rolled really bad, and this was one of those moments where I'm like, I'm so sorry, dude. That was rough. Again, like, riding the highs and lows together, commiserating during that bad moment. But then on the 2 sharks, finished off Vordry, allowing them to take the objective. My sharks then here killed the zombies to the man. Wish they had survived. Wish I had killed Gorslav. And I did take that center objective. Did I take that center objective at the point? I believe so. I think, yeah, I got my hold 1, hold more. Battle tactic. And yeah, 6 points. Yeah, got 6 points that round for killing a monster. So I was, again, down a couple points because Chris had burned my objectives early and was getting the advantage of hold more. So I think I was like down 3 points through the first 3 rounds. So that 6 points coming back was a great way to start turning it around. Chris, yeah, at that point, all Chris did was, I think on his turn 4, was just put, the Blood Knights and Vandorian Lord just barely here, just barely get enough bodies on the objective to take it back. Ran Gorslav over here, summoned 40 zombies back here onto that objective. Yeah, it was, just again, at all points in this game, Chris was just playing for objectives and playing for points, and that's the smart thing to do, especially when you're in a matchup where, again, I feel like I'm at the advantage, in terms of trading. So yeah, he got that, came down to round 5 priority. I do win round 5. Chris decides not to burn any of the objectives. He's got those last 3 left, because if Chris burns one of the objectives, I can securely take and hold the other 2. And he has no way to hold an objective at the end of the round. Chris leaves one objective. I can't effectively hold all three. So yeah, leaves all three objectives. I secure 2 of them. Put 10 bodies on this one as well to take it. So I do take all 3 objectives, but knowing those zombies are just going to walk on and take that at the end of the round. So this actually, after my round 5, no, after round 4 here, we go into the round, and Chris and I counted out the points and thought I was down 2 points at the time. And so he's got his Vandorian Lord here. So on my turn, and Blood Knight's in front. So on my turn, I'm like, okay, I've got a guaranteed 5 points. I could go for the Vandorian Lord kill. I could try to do it with my turtle and get a slay the Warlord with a monster for a bonus point, kill a monster for a bonus point, go for 7 points. I have an automatic 5 though if I do Ferocious Advance. And if I get, and I was going to shoot at and try and kill the Vandorian Lord as well, but I wanted to kill the Blood Knights also, to kind of just reduce bodies, and they were screening out the Vandorian Lord. Could have potentially tried to get around the side and go ham, trying to get the Vandorian Lord for the monster point. So, put a bunch of shooting into it. That's when he popped Rousing Commander to make all his Blood Knights, give them +1 wound. So yeah, interesting. So the Vandorian Lord would have also been +1 wound. And yeah, anyways, wasn't super pressured to kill the Vandorian Lord. Interesting. So I think he had 4 wounds left at that point. He would have had 1 extra wound from Rousing Commander, I believe, because he's a vampire. You guys can correct me in the chat. So I think he's 10 wounds, so I had dealt 6 damage to him that turn. Again, at that point, because we had talked and I thought it was up 3, I didn't need, if I got the monster point, I would have tied the game. I would have won the game. And at worst, it was a tie. So I went for the sure thing that was, at worst, I'm going to tie this game. I'm not going to make the big risk play for the win. Chris can only score 3 points on his turn. Was kind of where I was sitting at. Yeah, so from there, that was top of 5. Plays out, turn 5 plays out exactly, or bottom 5 plays out exactly as we talked about. He does, has a battle tactic that he can do. So he had 6 wounds left, or he'd taken 6. Yeah. And the Vandorian Lord gets +1 wound from Rousing Commander, correct? Because he's a vampire? Yeah, because I remember he had 4 wounds left after, when I went into him. Yeah, so yeah, so anyway, sorry guys, getting a little sidetracked here. Basically, again, he just piles, puts the zombies on that objective, takes it. His battle tactic he goes for is to kill a model and do the regeneration. Yeah. Does the regeneration to get the battle tactic by killing a shark. It had 3 wounds left on it. Has to pile into some of my stuff, get hit back by the other remaining shark. Only had 4 wounds left. And basically, with the stuff hitting him back, that Vandorian Lord, I have a chance to get that monster point still. And he survives on 1 wound after Lotan and the shark, which were both of the two things hitting him back,
kill him or fight back. The thing, I don't think, Chris, I don't remember us taking, when he had 4 wounds left after combat on turn 5, my turn 5, I don't remember us actually taking into account that he was 1 wound left, because he had 4 wounds remaining. I know I remember the 4 on the dice, but he actually potentially then would have only had 3 wounds left and died on bottom of 5. Yeah, so anyways, he survived on 1 wound. Don't hit the bonus point, tie game, it was an epic game, yeah, all that stuff. So again, round 5, we're, I think, both beat. Okay, cool. Long game, great epic game with Chris. We were both beat. You know, this point, a tie is disappointing again with the mission, the way things played out. And the way things out. In a tournament perspective, obviously you want the win. Unfortunate that with this mission, made it real tough for me. Again, great game with Chris. We had an absolute blast. So much fun to play. And you know, the Rousing Commander was impactful for keeping those Blood Knights alive, which kept them in the way. And now we were kind of rushing through bottom of 5, where I kind of, you know, we were trying to talk it out. I kind of, you know, we could have collectively maybe gone through that process a little better. Not that there was any issue by any means, but just in terms of the activation order, we're like, oh, this is the only one that matters, but actually the other ones could have mattered depending on the order things were done. So that if you can, you obviously just want to play it out, do the combats properly, because there can always be little things here and there. And in the end, so you know, we had finished my turn bottom of 5. I was up 3, and then I didn't get the monster point. Chris got the battle tactic, got the single point because he brought those zombies back, and it was a tie game. We realized afterwards that we had made a scoring or counting error in when we were, you know, counting up points before round 5, and I had only been up 2 points, not 3 points, which means rather than a tie, it was actually a 1 point loss for me. I told Chris, like, I think Chris felt bad about it because we realized that after the game, after we had like talked, you know, confirmed that or talked about being up, that I was up 3. Honestly, to me, it didn't really make a difference. You know, playing, obviously I played there for fun. Like, I had a great time. It didn't, you know, losing games doesn't impact my enjoyment of the event. And for me, you know, being an ITC event, ITC points are, you know, not a major concern of mine, but there's something I'm considering. I obviously want to do well in the rankings and all that. It's, you know, a fun measure of you know, how you're doing as a general. So I, you know, enjoy doing the points in the ranking system with ITC. A tie would have dropped me to 17th, which is what, so I was dropped to 17th because of the tie. And that dropping to 17th basically made the event for me not impactful for ITC, because I need to, you know, I have some good scores. So to improve my scores, I would have had to like been in the top 10. So the tie going to a loss, I literally didn't care. I'm like, man, I want to get it right. You know, don't want to screw anyone over. You always want to make sure things are done in the right way. Yeah, so I, you know, it was no advantage to me, you know, to be a hard ass or anything, to try, you'd be like, oh, you know, because we had, you know, had, oh, this is what we agreed on, you know, whatever. You never want to do that. And again, it was not meaningful for me. So I ended up going 3-2 there, though, getting the loss there, which is disappointing, just from purely from looking at an ITC. Then, you know, again, that's 1/10 of what the weekend was. You know, so it's like, did not impact the weekend. And again, the amazing people that were there, like Chris, I gave Chris my best opponent vote, even though, you know, he beat me and we just had an epic game, 1 point game, despite, you know, some things going against me with the mission and that, you know what I mean? That's like,
it was a great game, great guy. Couldn't say say enough about how the whole weekend was. So wasn't going to let that that little thing ruin the whole weekend by any means. But just worth noting from an ITC perspective. Yeah, that was game 5. Ended up 3-2. We can, I guess, jump into a little bit of a conclusion. Again, I've said this all the way through. 5 great opponents. Couldn't ask for anything better. Had a blast, with everyone there. All the different teams from around Texas. Me and Carl were down there from Season of War. Our friends from another team that Carl is not a part of. Tough Crowd. Actually, I gotta say, I am wearing a Tough Crowd shirt right now. But Tough Crowd guys were down there, had an Airbnb. We were hanging out with them all weekend. Absolute, we've been hanging out with those guys for years, going to events. I met Joe 4 years ago at Du Bois, and I played him, and we had a blast. Yeah, Mike was down there as well. So, like, Sunday night we had a party, had a lot of fun. I mean, every night, but absolute blast, absolute. Can't say enough about it. This is what events are. Whether you go 5-0, 3-2, or 0-5, it's like you shouldn't let your event results be what determines your enjoyment of the game and the weekend, because you'll miss out on things like the amazing community, amazing people, the amazing teams that you can be a part of. That's what the game's all about. Having fun, laughing at the highs and lows of a game. It's like you can enjoy all that while still being competitive and still being a good person, and that is peak Warhammer in my opinion. Yeah. I'll do quickly if there's any questions that anyone has specifically about the event or the games or anything. We can do a quick little Q&A as we wrap things up in chat. So if there are any questions you guys have, let me know. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Paint scoring, or overall, I ended up in 21st. I did have despite being 3-2, I was scored really well in all my games. Especially the one game I scored 43 points. Even this loss, it was 27-26. So I scored really well at the tournament. Could have been 4-1, realistically. I think Chris ended up in 7th, so whoever won our game would have ended up in 7th. ITC points was about 180 for 7th compared to I dropped to 21st with the loss, which there was 91 players I think there, so 21st is still great. It's a great finish. Yeah, I just answered that, Jim, right as you asked the question. 91 players, so I ended up in 21st. Got ITC wise 144 points I think is what I got, so potentially 40 point difference there, which that's the only I wish wanted those points, but you can't always get what you want, and again, it's not the only thing it's about by any means. So 21st, again, still great result at 3-2, was one of the highest scoring 3-2s, and yeah, and that's like top 20-25%, so definitely a good job being top quarter for sure. So it's still happy about that. What else? I think that's pretty good. There was hobby elements to that. So the overall, I think I actually jumped from 21st to 13th. I think in overall, when you factor in hobby and sports, which is always something I'm proud of. All 3 aspects of the hobby are big ones and very important to me. Put a lot of love and effort into this army, and always got to be a good person, whether you're winning or losing. Have fun, have some beers, time. Other than that, yeah. Eli says he was table 3, final round, undefeated at that point, fighting for second or third place, and the loss dropped him from top 5, top 6 down to 14th, which is what it is when you have that many people at an event. Yeah, so
it's a tough one. I know Eli was hunting for his first 5-0, I think, finish. So Eli, you came close. They'll get it soon, I'm sure. Yeah, that's it. Again, great games overall, great people. Texas, you were a blast. Hope to make it down there again. Hope the flights get cheaper, because it was not cheap at all, especially when you have to take a $200 Uber as well. That's a story for another time, though. Guys, thank you so much for joining. I hope you enjoyed this chat. Eli, Chris, you guys are, especially big thank you to you guys for being great opponents, joining us in chat today, giving a little extra insight from your perspective. Hope you enjoyed the video and my recap. And I didn't, I guess it's nice to see other people's perspective on the games. But yeah, that's pretty much it. We'll wrap things up here, guys. Thank you so much for joining. I'm talking to Carl about doing a recap as well. Just waiting. He's got some computer tech issues that he's trying to work through. Not sure if we'll be able to do that with him. Also talking to Oliver about trying to do a recap. He captained the UN team at Worlds. So Oliver from our Season War team was there. And they ended up 13th out of 22, which for a ragtag team thrown together at the end was pretty excellent. So Oliver did a great job, and I want to hear more about it and how everything went. So that's that, guys. Keep a lookout for that. Also, if you're a premium member, there's a battle report coming out this Friday. It's going to be Lumineth versus Night Haunt. You guys voted on that one. The first look at the new Night Haunt. It'll be a good one, so check it out on Friday. And otherwise, we'll see you guys soon. Thanks for all your support. Got it. Have a good night, guys. Bye.